to the Dawgs Podcast with your hosts, Blake Reneker, Justin Charles, and Josh All.
What's up, Browns fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Dawgs Podcast. Justin, Josh, myself, coming to you guys virtually tonight. I do want to open today's episode by saying we apologize for not having the 500th episode over the weekend. Leave it to us to plan out 2 weeks worth of schedules and how we're going to put out episodes, to line it up on a day when we can all be in studio together, and then we get a borderline blizzard sweeping across the state, which Justin's got a little bit of a drive to get to the studio. Josh is super far away from the studio, coming from the backwoods. It's like the Deliverance. And the only person it wouldn't have really affected is me. I live about a mile and a half from the studio. So I was there waiting for these guys. So if you guys get angry, don't yell at me. But so we will be pushing that back to a celebration of doing 500 episodes, because we couldn't just put the show on hiatus until we can figure out a good time to do it again. Because like I said, we have a guest star or two and all that good stuff. We got to line up everybody's schedules again. So we apologize for that getting pushed out. We were hyping it up for a couple of weeks for you guys and it got postponed, but we are going to do it. And the way I look at it, it just gives you more time to become a YouTube member or become a Dog Pack member to be entered for a chance at one of those t-shirts or the Browns jersey. So you got maybe I'm looking, it's going to be hopefully in the next week or two that we can get everybody scheduled together and get back in the studio and do what we had planned. So you got some extra time to make sure you're entered in for those contests. Again, if you want to become a Dog Pack member to be entered for a chance at the Browns jersey, it's just jointhedawgs.com to become the official Dog Pack member. You'll be entered in that contest. Also, anytime we do a contest, Dog Pack members are automatically entered. So you'll be entered in all the contests we do throughout the season. You get access to the private Discord. You play fantasy football with us. So it's just a good time for everybody involved. YouTube member, just become a YouTube member on YouTube. If you have an account, it's 99 cents a month. And it's a little bit out of you guys and helps support the show a ton. So we appreciate anybody who does that. And we're looking forward to doing the 500th episode. If you want to get some voicemails, intros on the show, especially maybe for that 500th episode, we're trying to make it a big one. Just head to thedawgspodcast.com, tap leave voicemail in the drop-down menu. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Make sure you tap the notification bell so you don't miss any of the content that we're putting out or any updates about postponing episodes. You would have been just sitting there on YouTube waiting for us to go live, and it wasn't happening if you weren't following us and didn't have the notification bell tapped. If you are looking for us on any social media pages, just search at the Dawgs Podcast. We're on all the major ones. And you can also just listen to us on Apple, Spotify, and Google if you don't want to look at our ugly mugs for an hour every other week when we get to do episodes these days. Or Josh puts out a lot of content. Luckily, Josh is the best looking one out of all of us.
Absolutely. Wow, boy.
So I think we got a fun episode to get into today. We're going to try to spice it up in terms of, we're not just going to talk about the same thing that's been dominating the Browns headlines in terms of Myles Garrett. Maybe we'll mention him, but hopefully this is the extent of that. So if you're like, man, the Dawgs have just been doing nothing but talk about Myles, it's because that was the biggest news, but we got some more fun stuff to talk about today. So we're excited to get into it. The first thing we want to talk about, the last time we all got to do an episode, it was on the docket and then we kind of ran out of time. That the San Francisco 49ers have granted Deebo Samuel permission to seek a trade. I know he's getting up there in age a little bit. I immediately thought I would take Deebo on my team. And I thought, maybe I was just thinking that because anytime I hear somebody's available, I think the Browns should go pick him up. But then Dan Orlovsky goes on one of the shows he's on ESPN and said if he was one of these teams, he would be inquiring about Deebo and he would be interested in adding Deebo to the team. We were one of those teams. So I guess I just wanted to throw it to you guys. Do you think it makes sense to trade for Deebo? Do you think he'd fit in on this team? Or what's that? Is that something you'd be interested in? You can go first, Justin.
Okay. The last that I read about this was that people are expecting him to be a post-June 1st cut. That's what we're thinking. As far as Deebo, I like his energy. I think he's a great locker room kind of guy. He's kind of like that dog. He kind of gives me Jarvis Landry kind of vibes. Obviously, production's been down the last couple of years. He signed a huge contract in 2021, I think, 70-something million over 3 years. Production has dipped, and, he missed a couple games last year. It's tough because, he's going to probably want to get paid. So I guess if the price is right, do I think he could be a good fit? I think he adds a lot of potential, if he can stay healthy. We'll go ahead.
So go, Josh.
I was just going to say, you're right about the age, 29 years old. So getting up there in terms of receiver, especially the way he plays, because he's a very physical, kind of almost like a wide receiver or a running back hybrid position, because the 49ers used him out of the backfield a ton. That was the big deal whenever he was trying to get that big contract was, hey, you guys are using me out of two positions here. I'm not just a receiver. I'm kind of like a backup running back for you guys. And you're right. Like the production he's been a good player throughout his career, but he's never been a high volume guy. I mean, the highest receptions he's ever had, 77, 1,400 yards and 6 touchdowns was back in 2021. He did have 7 touchdowns back in 23 with 892 yards, but that was just the second highest, yardage output of his career. Last year, 51 catches, 670 yards, just 3 touchdowns receiving. I mean, if the price was right, I'd love to add him to the roster, but the price has to make sense. I don't want to overpay for a guy who's going to come in here and I don't want to say, put up limited numbers, but really his production has not been what you're paying top dollar for.
No, his mentioning the production, he had almost 1,800 all-purpose yards just in 2021. And since then, he's probably only around 2,000, 2,100 combined in the 3 years since then. So the production has definitely dipped. We've seen the emergence of Ayuk. They brought in CMC, who, he gets a big chunk of the offense now. I'm with you guys. If you can, I think he would fit in the locker room nicely in terms of I thought the exact same thing. I get Jarvis Landry vibes in terms of he'll hold people accountable, a toughness, a grittiness.
Yeah.
And that could be good for some of the young guys in the locker room to have somebody like that. But we can't give them some huge payday. It's got to make sense financially. And if they're going to post June 1st, cut him. What do you think the open market for him is? This is a guy coming off of 670 yards, 892 yards and 632 yards receiving the last 3 years. He's only eclipsed 1,000 yards receiving one time in his career. So they gave him that huge contract after his big season where he had 1,400 yards and 365 yards rushing. At least I'm pretty sure that's when it was. And then the very next year, he dipped down to 632 yards. And you started hearing, are they mad? They paid Debo a year too early. That money should have went to Ayuk, and then it caused the Ayuk issues with holdouts and that kind of stuff. At least maybe my timeline is off, but I feel like that's how it went. Maybe if somebody's double checking me here.
He signed a big contract in 2021, same year he had that huge season.
And then since then, it's almost been like they've had buyer's remorse a little bit with, he's played the year after the big season. He played 13 games. He played 15 and 15 the last 2 seasons. So he's had some injuries, but it's not like he's playing half the season or a quarter of the season. He's still playing the bulk of the games. At this point, I almost expect my corners and my wide receivers, they're going to miss 2 to 3 games. I'm just expecting that. If you play 14 plus games a year in today's NFL, you're considered you're not a liability in terms of injury, right, in my opinion.
That's like the new full season.
Yeah. So no, I think he'd fit in well. I think it's just all about the money and getting them to buy in and come into this locker room and kind of taking on a leadership role like the way Jarvis did. And then I think it would be good. I think he would do a lot of the things that we were trying to get Elijah Moore to do, and Elijah Moore wasn't equipped to do those things. If you remember when we went and got Elijah Moore, everybody's saying he could be our Deebo, and that's how we were trying to use him, and he's just not that guy. Deebo is a guy that you can turn around and hand the ball off to, just throw a quick screen to him. So no, it'd be interesting, but again, it's about the financial fit.
Yeah, for me, another thing that I'm a little concerned with Deebo is, Justin, you probably remember this, better than I do, but last year during the fantasy football season, a lot of the talk was, what do you do with Deebo Samuel? Is he washed? Like, can he just not do it anymore? Remember, he had so many games where he just disappeared, didn't do anything. And that was kind of a big topic, at least in the fantasy community, that really sticks in my mind about Deebo Samuel. So I'm really hesitant to throw that guy too much money at all, especially coming off a season like that. And I was just kind of thinking of what receiver last year came off of, a questionable production season, is a little bit older and got a big payday, was Calvin Ridley with the Titans. And I was just looking up to see what they gave him. He was 28, 29 years old last year? I think 29.
Yeah.
And he got a 4-year, $92 million contract, and the annual average is $23 million. Like, I don't want to do that. That's way too much, in my opinion.
No, I will say a little bit with this production dipping is there's a lot of mouths to feed in San Francisco, especially with, they got CMC.
True, but they were all hurt this year. CMC was out and Ayuk was out all year.
Yeah, well, then now everybody can just double Debo, So it's like one of those things where you're either the focal point where they know all we have to do is take you away, or you become, there's Ayuk, Kittle, CMC, the other back. They're always going to be like a run first team also. They don't throw the ball a ton. So I feel like I could play devil's advocate in terms of the production. I think he could come into Cleveland and put up better numbers than 670 yards receiving. But like you said, I'm not giving him a Calvin Ridley kind of contract to try to do that. He's going to get almost like a prove it deal from me.
And not to like crap on Cleveland, the city, or the Browns, but let's say he goes post June 1st and he's a free agent technically. What percentage would you say he decides, I don't want to go to Buffalo or Kansas City or any of these potential contenders, or, teams over 500 or teams that can score more than 20 points? What do you think the chance that he would be like, forget those teams, I'm coming to the Buckeye State?
Yeah, it's going to be low percentage.
I would say this: if you think he can help your football team, you can't let him get cut. You'd have to trade for him, because like you said, there's zero chance he would be coming here in free agency. I think the Browns' best weapon, I guess, and some people say they have to overpay to get people here. Well, we're not a destination city. We're not a vacation city. Sometimes you got to pay to get people here, but then I think we have some of the nicer facilities in terms of our in Berea. I think I know that a lot of people shit on this front office, but I feel like once we get people here, we've done a pretty good job of being able to keep them and make them enjoy it here. Like, Njoku asked for a trade and now he loves Cleveland. Jarvis Landry seemed to really enjoy his time here. Like, it's like we have to pay a little extra to get you here, but then once you get here, you realize, it's like you look around, you're like, oh, this isn't as bad as what everybody told me it was going to be. Like Donovan Mitchell, I know different sport, but Donovan Mitchell could have left Cleveland to go to New York and instead signed a contract to stay in Cleveland. It's one of those places where all you hear is people crap on Cleveland, and then you get to Cleveland and you're like, this isn't that bad. There's things to do here. This is fun. Turns out I'm rich, so if I really want to go do something, I can jump in a plane and go do it. I only have to live here for 6 months out of the year anyways. So I don't want people to think like, oh, if he doesn't want to be here, then you don't want to trade for him. I think if you could trade for him and get him in the building, and then you can make him see like, oh, okay, we're not a dumpster fire. We have things to offer. This is a good place to work, essentially. So I don't think we would have to holding them hostage. I just think you might have to pay to get him here to show him the light, if that makes sense.
Fair argument.
What would you give up for? What would you give up for him?
Mm-hmm. It's a good question, man. For me, it just depends on what we do in free agency and then what we do in the draft, because like you said, it's going to be a post June 1st deal anyway. So I don't know. It's tough because I don't even know what all draft picks we have next year to offer up for players.
I was off the top of my head, I just thought a fourth.
What about like Greg Newsome? I've been seeing a lot of those rumors again.
I just don't know if I'm trading a young corner who plays pretty well for an aging, possibly declining. I'd be more interested in giving up a mid-round draft pick. The hit rate on your mid-round draft picks are not as high. So
Oh.
I'd rather part ways with one of them than giving up a corner that we know can play at a pretty high level and who's younger.
I totally understand. I know that the conversations we'll have the conversations too as we get closer to free agency and all this stuff about Newsome, because this is the last year. So, are they going to extend him long term, or is this going to be it? I don't know what he's going to warrant in terms of a contract extension, but what do you think, Justin?
I'd even flip it and say, I think the Browns need to decide what they want to do with Elijah Moore. He's a free agent. Like, are you bringing him back? Because if you are, then I think it makes things a little interesting. But I mean, like, if you're not going to bring him back, that could be a great piece to bring in.
We don't have a whole lot of receivers on the roster right now. We're going to have to do stuff in free agency and the draft, because it's Judy, it's Tillman, and then it's Bell and Thrash and Michael Woods. And that's your wide receiver core.
No, we need help at wide receiver, especially if Elijah Moore doesn't come back. I think we're all on the boat of, if we get decent quarterback play, our wide receiver core can be solid. But I could also make you the argument, Jerry Jeudy aside, we don't really have a difference maker out there at the wide receiver position. And even Jerry Jeudy, I guess maybe it's just the skeptic Browns fan in me. I need to see it again now before I really start to buy into the number one hype. Sometimes it's like the guy who averages 25 points a game on the basketball team that only won 18 games the year before. Well, somebody's got to score. One of the receivers had to catch passes and run around, So I'm not saying that as like a knock on Jerry Jeudy. I just want to see him stack good seasons before I really start to buy into the hype.
Dude, Devontae Parker was the name that I heard somebody compare it to the other day, who in his fifth year, remember, he was a first round pick and he was 494, 744, 670, 309 his first 4 years. And everyone's like, this guy's a bust. He's never going to pan out. Then his fifth year, he broke out 72 catches, 1,200 yards, and 9 touchdowns. And then he never did it again. So I'm with you. I love Jerry Jeudy. I think what he did was awesome. But, I'm not ready to crown anybody. I need to see it repeated.
Unfortunately, too, I think that, I saw flashes with Tillman where I was like, I think we have something special here. And unfortunately, that concussion it removed him from the season.
Yeah.
I know he eventually kind of got back out there, but it was late. Like the wheels were gone. You know what I mean? We were riding rim down the road at that point. So, I still think that there's potential there with Tillman too. I like Tillman a lot.
This episode is sponsored by Butcher Box for Pets. Browns fans, it's about time the Dawgs offered you something for the real dogs in your life. Our furry friends aren't just pets, they're part of the family. And you wouldn't let yourself or your children eat strange meat from questionable sources, and your dog shouldn't either. Right now, head to butcherboxforpets.com/dogs or use promo code DAWGS, DAWGS, to get 20% off your entire order. At ButcherBox, they believe in real ingredients. Their pet foods have been developed and certified by vet nutritionists to contain 0 artificial flavors or preservatives. You get protein-packed formula with over 50% of the recipe comprised of third-party certified humane ButcherBox meat, plus functional ingredients like pre- and postbiotics to support your dog's vitality and digestion. And ButcherBox even removes the guesswork for you. Their custom meal plans are perfectly portioned to fit your dog's nutritional needs based on 8 factors, including age, weight, and activity level. I know my home wouldn't be the same without Odie, our 100-pound golden who thinks he's a 10-pound lap dog. And it gives us peace of mind knowing that we're giving him quality food instead of that factory processed garbage from the store. And speaking of the store, no need to add dog food to the shopping list ever again. ButcherBox delivers their high-quality food right to your door on the right feeding schedule for your dog. And you can change, modify, or pause your plan at any time. So head to butcherboxforpets.com/dogs and use promo code DAWGS for 20% off your order. It's time for all of us dogs to give all of our dogs the nutrition they deserve.
So we'll see what the Browns do. We'll see if there's any actually fire behind the smoke there. Again, I don't know. I haven't heard anything from the Browns talking about that. That was just somebody on ESPN and something we thought maybe we'd address, see what we thought about it. So we'll kind of transition then into maybe the hottest Browns news of the last day or so was that Shedeur Sanders says he uses the Browns on Madden. And of course, because we're Cleveland, like this is a big story. And I guess, and some people are, because we're Cleveland, it's, does this mean he likes Cleveland, or is he in on the conspiracy to get somebody to come up and trade for him? What do you guys think? Because to me, like, I think he won't play in Cleveland is so overblown. If he wouldn't play in Cleveland, his first top 30 visit, he just wouldn't have come to Cleveland. He would have let it be known, I'm not coming there. So I think all that is completely overblown. I think if we take him, he'd be more than happy to come play here. I think Dion has connections with people in the building that he respects. So I don't think that is a problem. In terms of a smoke screen to try to get a team to come up and get him, why would the player be on it? Yeah. You think that they're, you know what I mean? So just what do you guys think? What did you guys make of that? And then we'll just kind of go from there in terms of the quarterback talk.
I mean, there's been so much ever since really college football ended and everything that has been connecting the Browns with Shedeur Sanders, whether it's just them being interested in him, if he's available at 2, or them really honing in and saying, this is our guy. I don't know, but I do feel like it's not just a smokescreen because like you said, we've made personnel moves, the Musgrave promotion and all that kind of stuff, the connections to Dion saying, hey, I've talked to the Browns and the Giants, and Shedeur, he's got the media, whatever, the media crew following him around, and they're posting these clips. Well, the first thing was, well, who's your first top 30 visit? The Browns. Well, you know, why did they clip that and post it to go viral? I feel like a lot of this is being somewhat coordinated, but I think it is to kind of ease us into this process of, hey, this might be our next quarterback.
No, I agree. I guess then we'll kind of talk about, we saw a mock draft today. So it seems like Shedeur is okay with coming to Cleveland. At least that's the way it appears to all of us. And we saw Daniel Jeremiah put out a mock today where the Titans didn't take Cam Ward at 1. Who did they take?
They took Abdul Carter.
Okay, so they took Abdul Carter, which means in a situation that I don't think a lot of people foresee happening, but that Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders will both be available at 2, and he had us taking Cam Ward. If they're both available, who are you guys taking?
Yeah, I mean, right now, I think I'm leaning towards Shedeur Sanders. That would be my pick at the moment. The familiarity things that are happening as far as the coaching staff, Blake's touched on it a little bit, and Josh too. I think his playing style kind of fits a little bit better with what Kevin Stefanski's offense, like at its core, those are the principles, you know what I mean? Do I think that I don't want to say you get stuck with whoever's left over, because at this point, I'm like, we need a quarterback, and there's a potential to get the guy, or, a lot of people think Cam Ward's the better guy. So for me, as long as quarterback is addressed at 2, I'm okay.
I'm with you, Justin. It's a nice position to be in, honestly, where we've got the number 2 pick. There's 2 quarterbacks, and I'm not dead set on either one. I'd be happy with either, just as long as they don't pass on the position. I think both are great prospects. I keep hearing all this 3rd round grade bull crap from people. I'm like, guys, there's a couple people that have said that months ago, made some headlines. Things have changed, obviously, and most people have them as 1st round talents, of course. I don't know. I watched both the tape a lot on these guys, and I'm not going to lie, Cam Ward's tape excites me more, but I do see where there could be some issues in the NFL with him if certain things aren't corrected, if he's not coached up properly and put into a good system, all that kind of stuff. But I like them both. Shedeur has really grown on me, and I keep saying the way that his accuracy in the middle part of the field, the intermediate area, is insane. He throws with such anticipation, and those are things you can't. It's not easy to coach that. Like, you can either do it or you can't, and he does it so well. And I like both these guys. I really do.
I know for me, if they're both available, I would be going with Shedeur for a lot of the things you just mentioned. The accuracy, the way he processes information. I don't think you can undersell the fact that he's been coached by arguably the best defensive back to ever play the game of football for his entire life, in terms of how to read a defense, tendencies of defensive backs, how to prepare like a pro, how to prepare like a Hall of Famer. Like Dion talks a lot, but there's no denying that he put it in the work. Like, he knows what it takes to play at that level, that you can talk at that level. And that's the guy who raised and has coached Shedeur his entire life. He's turned around 2 programs, turned around Jackson State, turned around Colorado. And to me, it's the accuracy, it's the throwing with anticipation. His accuracy on some of this stuff. I'm not saying he's CJ Stroud, but I used to watch CJ Stroud at Ohio State put the ball on the sideline or in like a front pylon throws to the end zone, and I was just like, man, CJ is like the most accurate quarterback I've watched in a long time. And I watched Shedeur make a lot of throws that make me think the same kind of thing. I watched a little bit of a tape earlier today, actually. In some of these throws, I'm just like, he puts it's on a string. He puts it right where he wants it almost every single time. He's used to playing behind a bad offensive line. He's used to playing with no running game. He's used to playing with only one good wide receiver, really. So it's just, if I'm going with the two, I'm going to go with Shedeur. And like you said, I think he fits what we want to do better. Cam Ward might be a little bit flashier, a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, but I think he's going to take more building around. I think when you bring Cam Ward in, I don't know if you put him in a Kevin Stefanski offense. I think you got to go the route of like how we tried to do it to Deshaun, in terms of we need to put pieces around him to run the offense that is going to suit his strength, which if you're going to take Cam Ward, I think that's what you should do. You shouldn't try to put a square peg into a round hole. So I just think Shedeur fits what we want to do better, and it'll require less other maintenance around him in terms of changing up our identity, which we just found out last season is terrible. We don't want to do that. We don't want to have an identity crisis 2 years in a row. So I would probably go with Shedeur if they were both available. And I'm starting to see some people creeping in where they're saying he is the QB1.
Yeah.
The further we get into this draft process.
Yeah.
I was bummed about Cam Ward if we would get him, but if the Titans end up going Shedeur 1, I would definitely be, at least I would feel like we got the second best quarterback if we ended up getting Cam Ward.
So one thing that I want to mention, I think I've said this before, but I keep telling people what I like about Cam Ward. I like what he does on the field. The dude has some tools. But this is a guy who went from 0-star recruit, had to sign on with Incarnate Word, played there for 2 years, then had to go to Washington State, played there for 2 years, and went to Miami and ended up turning himself into a Heisman finalist, potential first overall pick in the NFL draft. Everything I've read about him from coaches and stuff said like he is a hard worker, he's dedicated, and I feel like he has moved from different schools and seamlessly transitioned, picked up new offenses, played with these players and whatever, and just continued to elevate his game. So I like that, because that piece of his story kind of reminds me of Baker Mayfield, where he had to walk on everywhere he went. So he went from walk on at Texas Tech to transfer and walk on at Oklahoma to Heisman winner and first overall pick. It's those kinds of things that make you look at a prospect and say, okay, I know he's got the drive to push himself to be, great, which to me is important, because a lot of these guys, they get to the NFL, they get their first big paycheck, and it's like, that's pretty nice money, And that's I think that contributes to why some of these guys, they come in with all this talent, and after the rookie contract, they're really not around anymore.
I guess for me, we've talked about this a lot, is so much of where you're going to be successful is fit, and I just think the fit is better Shedeur in Cleveland in terms of what we're going to try to do on offense. We talked about it a lot yesterday. We think there's been quarterbacks labeled as bust that if they would have just been drafted to a different situation, probably could have been at least solid players in the NFL, if not considered franchise quarterbacks. So I think so much of your culture and your organization and the fit and how you're going to use that person is like a big point in terms of who you're going to draft. I don't want to pick somebody. He might have all the tools, but that doesn't mean he'll work there. Lamar Jackson wouldn't have worked here if we tried to just put him in a Kevin Stefanski offense. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And there's no denying Lamar Jackson's talent level, but he would not have been successful in an under center play action boot offense. At least maybe now he would be able to do it as he's gotten better at his from the pocket passing and everything, but we would never even have given him the shot.
Put him off the field.
Exactly. So much of it is going to be about fit. So that kind of then brings me to, I want to address the crowd of, we all said, no matter what, though, take a quarterback at 2. And then there's so many people saying, don't take a quarterback because we have so many other holes to fill. We can get one later. The get one later thing to me is, is wild. Like just snagging third and fourth round quarterbacks and turning them into franchise guys. That's just what everybody else is doing, and we're just the only team to not do it. Like,
So
guys, that's not a thing.
Here's what I've been saying to people is they'll come out and they'll say, well, this is a bad quarterback class. There's no quarterbacks in this class. It's a weak quarterback class, but just get one later. What? If it's a bad quarterback class, if it's a bad class,
dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Like if it's a bad class and there's no first round talents, who the hell are you drafting in the third or fourth? Come on,
Cody Kessler.
Jeez, I swear some people don't even. They're not.
Don't get me started. Don't get me going.
So that brings me to this point that one of my personal favorite broadcast people brought up. Nate Zagura said the Browns have had top 5 draft pick 14 times since 1999. In those 14 top 5 picks, they've only drafted a quarterback twice. And it was Tim Couch and Baker Mayfield. So all this talk of how many times do we have to draft a quarterback and it fail before you realize the problem is we're not trying at the right time. We've had a top 5 pick 14 times and we're going about it backwards. We're trying to add all these pieces and we're building them around nothing. And then you just end up wasting people's careers because you're still looking for the thing that matters. And the thing he said, another thing he said I heard today was the hit rate, even in the first round at any position, is like 50%. But there's 100% chance you will not be a good football team if you don't have a quarterback.
Right.
So you got to take your swing and do it at 2. The only 2 quarterbacks we're taking in the top 5 since 1999 are the 2 quarterbacks that are taking us to our only 2 playoff appearances. Or I get eliminated with
Blackburn. For everybody. A team of
66% of our playoff appearances since 1999 have been because of those 2 quarterbacks. Okay, like this notion that the Browns just keep taking quarterbacks number 1 and they just keep the problem is we refuse to do it. Look at all the quarterbacks that we could have had that we passed on because there were other pieces we needed. No, you get the rookie quarterback on the rookie contract and then you add pieces around him. Like, it's like the Browns have been trying to go around it backwards for 25 years and then wonder why we're still where we were 25 years ago. It's just, that kind of blew my mind in terms of I didn't even realize that we've only taken 2 in the top 5 and we've had top 5 picks 14 times. Maybe switch it up. Imagine if we would have taken a quarterback in the top 5 all 14 times.
Somebody would have
percentages. One of them would have had to have hit.
Yep, you would have thought so. Another point that I posted this on social media the other day, and I'm looking at all these mock drafts that, regular fans are doing, the industry people are doing, and everybody seems to think that the Titans and the Browns are at 1 and 2. They desperately need quarterbacks, but these quarterbacks aren't good enough for them. They're going to pass. And then as soon as you get to 3, the Giants need a quarterback. They're going to jump all over Shedeur Sanders. And then, you get down to the Raiders. Oh, man, they need a quarterback. So they're jumping on Cam Ward. These teams might even trade up for him. Wait a minute. So they're good enough for those teams to trade up for to draft, but not for us to just sit there and take? These people make no sense to me.
So I will say right now, if we trade down at 2, I might just walk out of the
I know,
show.
dude. And we're going to be doing draft night.
I might just walk off the show.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's kind of crazy. The wild thing to me, and I heard a really, really good argument the other day because I'm a big fan of Abdul Carter. We've talked about it. I like his game. I think he's a freak. He's a game breaker. Jay Crawford and G. Bush were arguing on this little viral clip or whatever, and basically Jay Crawford was like, we got to take Abdul Carter. This makes no sense to take a quarterback. These guys suck. And G. Bush was like, and for credit to him, he basically said, hey, if that guy goes out, let's say Abdul Carter goes out and let's say he just gets like 10 sacks and maybe like 7 hit tackles for loss. He impacted 17, plays. Obviously, there'll be more of that. Why wouldn't you want the guy that generates every play on offense right off the bat? That is your guy. Why? And he was talking and I was just like, nailed it, dude. You absolutely nailed it. And I don't agree with him on a lot of stuff. I was like, it couldn't be put any better. And then you argue with Browns fans and they're just like, no. Nope. We don't need a quarterback. even though that's our biggest issue right now. We don't have a quarterback.
Dude, I've been arguing with people about this whole Abdul Carter thing like crazy. And my point is, everyone says, oh, you got to take Abdul Carter. You can't take these quarterbacks. Why do they want Abdul Carter so bad? I hear Browns fans all the time, you guys know it, complain about Myles Garrett not doing enough, not impacting games, not doing everything he needs to do on defense or being that great of a player. Browns fans complain about Myles all the time. And all he ever does is go out and get 10 plus sacks every season except for his rookie season and make all pro every year, Pro Bowl on a Hall of Fame trajectory. And people complain about him. Well, what's Abdul Carter going to come here and do? He's going to do better than Myles Garrett? That's a high bar. I keep
hearing too, we got to draft Myles' replacement. Who says we're trading him? I mean, let's pump the brakes a little bit, guys. Like, I don't know that the Browns are going to do him a favor at this point. I mean, if we don't do the trade before the draft, what's the point of doing it? Right. You know what I mean?
And like Blake always says, Myles got his 3 wins this year. So what do we need his replacement for so badly? This episode is brought to you by Danger Coffee. Browns fans, we talk about how Danger Coffee is made free from mold toxins that are in 45% of the world's coffee, but that's not all that Danger Coffee has to offer. Mineral and nutrient deficiencies are a big deal. They make you feel sick, tired, stressed, and they can give you brain fog. These deficiencies negatively affect your immune system, your digestion, sleep, metabolism. Have you ever wondered why you get an initial burst from your coffee, but then you get that little crash not long after? Danger Coffee's patent-pending process remineralizes your body with more than 50 trace minerals and electrolytes, leaving you more energized, engaged, powerful. These micronutrients enter the cells to boost performance. They bind to toxins to provide detoxification support. I know that sounds like a lot, but the bottom line, guys, is minerals matter, and most of us really don't get enough of them on a daily basis. Danger Coffee delivers micronutrients, plus it gives you access to the minerals you already have. Head to dangercoffee.com, use our code DAWGS, D-A-W-G-S, for 10% off your order. And that code can be used over and over. So you get 10% off every order you make using code DAWGS. It's time to start every day off with a cup of coffee that gets you going and actually keeps you going. dangercoffee.com, code DAWGS.
You have a Hall of Fame edge rusher. He's going to be first ballot Hall of Fame as soon as he retires. And he's under 500 for his career. So, like, I'm not even going to entertain the thought of we need to draft his replacement. Why? So he can have a Hall of Fame career and be 30 games under 500 at the end of it? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Second, I also don't understand this notion that say we're keeping Myles. Could you imagine you put him opposite Myles? You don't need another edge rusher. Obviously, it's nice. What's going to help Myles more is an interior defensive lineman. So if you really want to go and get somebody who is going to help take pressure off of Myles, you'd go and draft Mason Graham out of Michigan before you would take Abdul Carter. The guy on the opposite side of the line, he's not taking any blocks for Myles Garrett. They can still double him. They can still double Myles and double this. You know what I mean? Like they can double with a guard and a tackle over here on Myles. They can double with a tackle and a running back over here and still be one-on-one in the middle with everybody. You need an interior defensive lineman who can collapse the middle of that pocket. So when Myles comes around the end, this guy can't just step right up into the pocket, into a clean pocket. You need somebody who's going to get pressure in the face of the quarterback. So if you really, really, really want to go defensive line, you don't want to go quarterback, I'd be pumping the gas on Mason Graham over Abdul Carter. It's at least for me. Like if I'm an edge rusher, I want to play next to a D tackle who's going to take 2 and 3 blocks. Who, if I pressure the quarterback, he's going to step right up into this guy's face. Like having another, we had Olivier Vernon, we've had Zadarius Smith, we had Jadeveon Clowney, we've had edge rushers opposite Myles. It's not like it's deterred people from double teaming Myles. He's double teamed, triple teamed more than everybody in the league. We got to put somebody in the interior who can get interior pressure if you really want to help Myles out.
And another way to help Myles, don't leave him on the freaking field the whole game. And that takes you back to the quarterback.
Yes, it's a lot of people too. I don't get the trade back and get more picks. We have too many holes. We have 12. I'm pretty sure
we have 12
and
picks.
Five of those are in the top 100. And for everybody who's screaming that this isn't a good quarterback class, guess what? It is seen as a really good class in defensive tackles. There's some high-end edge rushers, running. It's a gold
offensive
mine.
tackle,
offensive. There are all these other needs we have. We can address with high-level talent in the second round, the third round, with our 2 picks in the third round. Like, guess where you're not going to get somebody high-level, most likely, is the quarterback. Take your quarterback at 2, and you can still get a Travion Henderson, a Caleb Johnson, and a Amarian Hampton from North Carolina at 33. You can still go maybe get a Gray Zobel somewhere if you want a left tackle. I'm another quarterback. People, yes, another quarterback. Almost every other position in this draft is like 10 deep in terms of just elite level talent. So, but none of those positions warrant. You're not going to take a running back at number 2. Oh, you know what I mean? So you're going to take your quarterback at 2. And then it's not like if we take a quarterback at 2, all of a sudden we're going to be drafting scrubs at 33. Every good running back will be off the board at 33. No, there's probably still going to be 8 that are high level, high talent running backs right there at 33. Same goes with our 2 third-round picks. If we take a quarterback at 2, we're not going to be able to get an offensive tackle with our second or our third-round pick. No, there'll probably still be like 6 very good tackles left in the draft in the third round. There won't be any good quarterbacks left. And to the people who say these quarterbacks aren't good enough, I don't know which one it's going to be, but 1 or 2 of the quarterbacks in this draft will be good. I mean, even on years where there's very rarely is every quarterback taken a bust. Why not take your chance and be ours? And if you take your quarterback, everybody who says we have all these holes to fill, they think we suck and we're going to suck this year anyways. So take your quarterback and maybe you change your future. And if not, you're right back at the top of the draft again next year. Nothing says you can't take another one next year. We just saw the Cardinals do it. They took Josh Rosen and then realized this guy's dog water and immediately took Kyler Murray number 1 next year. Nothing says you take Shedeur Sanders this year and you get him in the building and you're like, this guy is not who we thought he was going to be. And you just immediately take another one next year because we'll be right back at the top of the draft if we're as bad as you think we're going to be anyways. And if we're not going to be that bad, you better take your quarterback of the future now because you're not going to be picking at the top of the draft the next 5 years. So I don't understand the logic of not taking the quarterback.
No, go ahead, Justin.
I laugh because while you were saying that, I just remember people talking about Atlanta taking Penix and being like, idiots, they're so stupid. How's that look right now?
Pretty smart.
And there's a good chance that, like let's say Kirk Cousins plays good. They're not going to get that chance to pick that high again. Now you have a quarterback, you have a backup plan. We don't even have the plan and people are saying, don't trade, don't take a quarterback. We have no quarterback. What are we talking about? What the hell are we talking about, guys? Take a quarterback. Get some quarterbacks. We need one. It's the most important position.
Yeah, and when people are saying that this is a weak quarterback class, it doesn't mean there's no good ones. It means that there's not a lot of high-level quarterbacks to pick from. Like last year, we had, 6 guys go in the first round? That's not going to happen this year. But it doesn't mean there's not 2 guys that are good first-round talent quarterbacks. There are. It just means that after that, there's a significant drop-off by a lot of, analysts' perspective.
And I guess I'll say this, and I've said this a bunch of times. You just watched arguably one of the worst offenses in the history of the NFL, and you want to pick a defensive player at number 2.
That's correct, bro.
You know what I mean? Like you just saw what happens if you can't score more than 16 points. I don't care how good your defense is, you're not going to win football games. The Eagles had a great defense. They didn't win all their games 8-0. They scored points. You know what I mean? Like I don't understand the logic of watching the worst, one of the worst offenses that anybody has ever been forced to watch in the history of this league, and you want to pick defense first. That makes 0 sense to me.
I agree with you 100% on that one, man.
So, got all fired up about this stuff. What am I forgetting anything, Josh? You were taking notes. Have we covered everything?
I think so. One thing I did want to mention, we're going to stick with the quarterback conversation here a little bit, but we'll change it up. So I sent this to you guys yesterday. I saw Thor Nystrom, who's like an analyst, breaks down these players. He does a lot of fantasy stuff. That's where I hear him a lot of times too on things, but he was breaking down these quarterbacks. And I know he does very in-depth stuff about these players and everything when he's breaking them down. So he gave his, pro NFL comps for each of these quarterbacks, and the top guys were pretty interesting. Now, when I say the names, don't immediately go to the career. I'm not talking about the careers of these guys. I'm not talking about the stats. I'm talking about their abilities on the field. The way they play the game is that's why he's comping them to this player. Shedeur Sanders was his number one quarterback this year, and his comp was Drew Brees. Smaller stature quarterback. I mean, Shedeur's not a big guy, but very accurate, can move when he needs to, knows how to navigate the pocket. And I thought that was a really nice comp, thinking about what Drew Brees was able to do in the NFL. And I could see Shedeur succeeding in a similar manner to him. And then Cam Ward was Jordan Love. So if you think about the way Jordan Love plays the game, that's similar to how he sees Cam Ward.
I think those are good comps. I hadn't heard the Drew Brees one, and Shedeur's a little bit bigger than Drew Brees. He's a couple inches taller, I believe. So, but their games are very similar in terms of Drew Brees was just so accurate, and his completion percentage was just always through the roof because he knew where he was going to go with the ball and he could put it right where he wanted it every time. If you got that kind of production on Shedeur, I mean, Drew Brees is one of the best quarterbacks of all time. I'm not saying he's going to be that, but I can see how their games they're very similar.
Right.
Do you have a couple more of these comps?
Oh, I don't even have it pulled up. I'm just going to think it off the top of my head. I know Jalen Milroe was Malik Willis. So please, guys, we got to Jalen Milroe. We got to quit mocking Jalen Milroe to the Browns, please. And if you're doing mock drafts on PFF, everybody stop, because they've got Shedeur Sanders at like 90. Just stop. It's not accurate. What was it? Will Howard was Mason Rudolph.
Yeah.
I don't get that one.
Again,
maybe I don't remember Mason Rudolph enough, but Will Howard's pretty mobile.
I thought, I feel like Mason Rudolph was decent. Not the way Will Howard is, but I thought that he had that to his game as well. Maybe just less.
I don't remember. I guess I didn't watch a ton of, was it Oklahoma State football?
Yeah, it's been a while.
But I just feel like when I think Mason Rudolph, I think statue. And I don't think Will Howard is a statue at all.
Anytime I think about Mason Rudolph, I just think when they had to cut his face mask off on the field, and that's good enough for me.
I'm surprised you didn't say the Myles Garrett thing. Who did they have? What was Jackson Dart's comp?
Who was it?
Jackson Dart.
Jackson Dart.
Oh, it's bad. Well, I guess it depends on who you ask. Gardner Minshew.
That's what it was. Gardner Minshew. Yeah.
Look at Blake. Look at the wheels turning.
And Blake's like, man, I actually really like that guy.
I didn't watch a ton of Jackson Dart, but I feel like he is way more mobile than Gardner Minshew.
He's way more athletic. Yeah.
Way more athletic. Like I don't, that's one where I was like, I don't know if I see that comp. And I'm a guy who enjoyed watching Gardner Minshew play football and just like walk around in jorts. Like I'm a Gardner Minshew guy. And I think I see Jackson Dart is not, I don't get that comp.
And who was the Kenny Pickett, Justin?
Kenny Pickett was, man.
I'm missing somebody. It wasn't Dylan Gabriel, was it?
I mean,
no, Dylan Gabriel was the poor man's Tua.
Poor man's Tua. That's right.
Poor man's Tua. Is that what he said?
In all reality, I mean, if you're looking for a backup, I've said this. I talked with Barry about Dylan Gabriel. I do think that he's got the potential to, over the course of his career, maybe develop into a starting level quarterback in the NFL. I think he's got really high level processing and he's got good mechanics and things like that. I think Gabriel could be that kind of guy, but obviously.
Got it.
Who is it?
Quinn Ewers.
Ewers, yep.
Ooh, the stock has fallen.
Is he even I mean, I thought he was
transferring.
I don't know. Maybe in my head, bro, it was like a declare thing just to try to get a better NIL deal. Like I still wasn't 100% convinced he was going to come out because, like, I don't think he's getting drafted high at all.
I don't think so either.
So that talk about a fall from grace. He was looked at as a top pick in
one. Yep.
And now I don't know where he's going to go.
Well, I mean, that happened to Spencer Rattler a few years back. Remember? I mean, before that was season, everybody, he's probably the early favorite to go 1 overall in the draft next year. And then he ended up having to play like 2 more years at South Carolina. And then what, he go 5th round?
He got benched.
Yeah.
He got benched for Caleb Williams.
Yeah. And he was a freshman? Wasn't Caleb a freshman?
Yeah.
That's why I keep telling people. So everybody wants to say, just get your quarterback next year. Get Arch Manning, or the quarterback class next year is so great. I'm like, who? What are the names? If it's so great, tell me the names. Tell me these certified, 100% guaranteed first round quarterbacks that you already know right now in 2025. You don't know. Too much changes over the course of a year in football and college and NFL. You got to play now. You got to take your opportunities when you have them. And we have an opportunity right now to get a guy. We need to do it because Arch Manning's thrown 95 passes in his college career. I don't know if he's good. I think everyone thinks he is, but hey, we thought Quinn Ewers was going to be good too.
That's one of those things too. You got to make your move while you have a job. I don't know if you guys heard, but job security in the NFL, particularly in Cleveland, is not crazy high. So you can't just plan for next year, especially coming off a 3-win season. Like you got to go. You're GMing and coaching like for your life, your job life. You know what I mean? Like you don't have time to you don't have a 10-year guaranteed, can never get fired contract. If it goes off the rails again, you're more than likely gone. Like there is no next year. Your coach, it's like a double elimination tournament. You don't throw your second best pitcher in the first game because you might not get to a second game. Like you don't plan for next year. Next year is not guaranteed. You got this year to get it figured out. So I'm with you. And like the Arch Manning thing, we all think he's going to be good, but we don't know. Like you said, he's barely played.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying I won't be shocked if he comes out and wins the Heisman. I'm not going to be shocked, but I'm not banking my NFL team's future on this guy maybe being good because the last name's Manning.
Very fair.
Yep.
There's our fair.
But all right, well, we'll wrap it up before we just start going in circles. I feel like we could just talk about why we should take QB for hours. And I'm curious to get our guest stars' input when we do our 500th episode. I think that'll be fun because I don't know what they're thinking, actually. So I'm hoping it gets contentious. I hope maybe some fists are flying.
It might get interesting. I'm excited to have that episode.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
So, but that's just a little teaser for what's to come when we celebrate doing our 500th episode, which is today 500 or is one of these other ones we just put out?
Today's 501.
501.
We're into the 500s.
This is just a regular old episode.
Thumbs up, baby.
I know what I mean.
Nobody commented how to turn it off, and I guess I could always Google it, but I just keep forgetting until it happens.
Send it again, bro. Just keep pounding.
Yeah, I'm going to keep asking until it goes away. Maybe the people like it. Maybe the people like the bubbles, and I'm just giving the people what they want.
I just want more fireworks.
I don't remember how I did that.
I don't know.
Double thumbs up, man. Let's see it.
Hey, we got them. We got fireworks.
To anybody who's just listening on and not watching, they're probably, what the hell are these guys talking? We're dumb. We are stupid. Yes. But we'll go ahead and wrap this thing up. Again, be on the lookout for when we're going to be live for that 500th episode celebration. In order to stay caught up on all the updates, make sure you're following us on all the social media pages. Just search at the Dawgs Podcast. Make sure you have the notification bell tapped on YouTube after you have hit subscribe. That's the important part. Again, we're going to be giving away a Browns jersey and 3 Dawgs Podcast t-shirts during that live. Just become a YouTube member between now and then, or join the dog pack at jointhedogs.com. We appreciate you guys being here, hanging out with us for going into 5 football seasons. We have now covered over a quarter of the Browns starting quarterbacks since 1999.
That's insane. When I put that together the other day for the 500 episode, I could not believe it.
Yeah.
Believe it, brother.
We're going into our 5th season, and we've covered 26% of the starting quarterbacks for the Browns in the last 25 years. So we picked a bad team to do a podcast for.
But there's always content, man. It's always something to talk about.
So, but we appreciate you guys being here with us through the highs and the lows of 500 episodes. We can't wait to do that one live for you guys, give away some stuff. Again, we appreciate you guys being here. We'll see you guys sometime later this week.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Dawgs Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Twitter at the Dawgs Podcast. Get your thoughts on the show at thedawgspodcast.com.
This episode is brought to you by Bodden Sports. Browns fans, Bodden Sports is your one-stop shop for all your athletic gear. Bodden started out perfecting and manufacturing the best balls in the business. Yeah, if that sounded dirty, that's more about your mind than my words. But hey, it's true. Baseballs, softballs, footballs, basketballs, volleyballs, soccer balls, you name it, and Bodden has engineered the highest standard sports balls available. And now they offer more than just sports balls. If you got kids playing baseball or softball, Bodden has batting gloves and bats to go along with both game balls and training balls. If you're into basketball, Bodden makes basketball specifically for indoor or outdoor use. Heck, Bodden even has all the equipment you need for pickleball, which is one sport that I hear everyone is playing and yet I still never have. And I need to fix that soon. But don't miss the backyard games section of Bodden's website where you can order everything you need for this upcoming outdoor season. Pool balls, backyard volleyball nets, croquet, bocce, horseshoes, cornhole, and more. Right now, you can get 10% off your entire order at Bodden Sports, BADEN sports.com/dogs, DAWGS, and use promo code DOGS when you check out. That's 10% off all the top quality sporting gear you need this season. BoddenSports.com/dogs.